students, I welcome you all back to the session. So through the last class, I hope you understand what is performance testing now. Okay, so last session we learned methodologies of performance testing, and you also learned what are the factors governing the performance testing. So now let us see the tools for performance testing. So basically there are two types of tools for performance testing. Okay, so first one is functional performance tool and the second one is load tools. So in functional performance tools, so it basically helps in recording and playing back the transaction and obtaining the performance numbers. So this test generally involves very few machines, okay? And the load testing tools are actually a simulation tools, so that holds the condition, load condition for the performance test without having to keep the number of machines, many number of machines or users. So here the load testing tools simplify the complexity which is involved in creating the load, and without those loads tools, it is maybe an impossible job to perform these kind of tests. And as mentioned earlier, so this is the only simulated load tool, and it has the different experience from the real life experience, because it varies from different tools to the realistic experience. So below are the some of the tools which are available in the market. So for the functional performance tool, there are three tools: Windrunner from Mercury, and QA Partner from CompuWare, and Skill Test from Sage. And for the load testing tools, we have LoadRunner from Mercury and QA Load from CompuWare and Silk Performer from Sage again. So these are all some of the tools which are available right now. Next, let us see what is the process for this performance testing. So as in the diagram, it shows that first you have to measure the requirements. Okay, so obtain some measurable and also testable requirements. So in all the software development process, there is first phase, okay, which is requirement gathering. So this happens in all the software development processes. First you gather the requirements and then analyze the requirement, and you also check whether the requirements are correct, consistent and is testable. Okay, so next is you create a performance test plan. So what is the performance test plan to be conducted, and you also design the test cases for the performance tests, and you also automate the test plans. So performance testing is basically done automatically using the tools which I have told you in the previous slides. And you will have the evaluating criteria, entry criteria and exit criteria. So you evaluate the entry and exit criteria and perform and analyze these test cases which you have performed, and you also evaluate the exit criteria. So based on the exit criteria, so you have to come out of the test. Okay, so basically the process of this performance testing follows the same process as any other testing types. So the only difference is that in getting more details and analysis. So here you will have a more detailed results and detailed analysis. So as mentioned before, the effort involved in performance testing is more, and the tests are generally repeated several times. So the increased effort reflects in the increased cost also, and as the resources needed for the performance testing is quite high. And a major challenge here involved is performance testing is getting the right process so that the effort can be minimized. So you can see that in the picture. So a simple process for performance testing is addressed in the given diagram. Ever-changing requirements for the performance is a serious threat to the product, as the performance can be only improved marginally by fixing it in the code. Okay, so a majority of performance issues require rework or changes in the architecture and design. So hence it is very important to collect the requirements for the performance test in earlier stages of your life cycle and address them also. And because the changes to the architecture and design late in the cycle are very expensive, because again you have to go back and fix those bugs, so it will be again your time will be wasted there, and resources is also wasted. So while collecting the requirements for the performance testing, it is very important to decide whether they are testable or not. Okay, so you need to check whether the collected requirements are testable or not, and to ensure that the performance requirements are quantified and validated in an objective way. So the quantified expectation of the performance is documented. And making the requirement testable and measurable is the first activity that is needed for the successful performance test. So in the next slide, let us see. So making these requirements testable and measurable is a very good activity, or so that is needed for the successful performance test. So the steps which are involved in having the detailed test plans are as below. Resource requirements. So as you all know, what are the resources of the requirements? So all these additional resources that are specifically given are actually gathered here and analyzed. So hence this setting up of both are actually testable. So here normally these resources are obtained and used for performance testing and are released after the performance test is over. So hence the resources need to be included as a part of planning and it's to be tracked. So the next plan is test bed, which is simulated and real life, and also test lab setup. So the test lab with all the required equipments and software configuration has to be set up prior to the execution. Okay, so the performance testing, which is required a large number of resources and requires special configurations, and hence setting up both simulated and real life environment is time consuming. Okay, so next comes the responsibilities. Performance defects, as explained earlier, may cause the change, okay, to the architecture, design and also to the code. So additionally, the teams facing the customer are normally communicated with the requirements for the performance, and multiple teams that are involved in successful execution of performance test, and all the teams and the people who are performing the different roles need to work together if the objective of the performance have to be met. So the next plan is setting up the product trace and audits and the traces, which are external and also internal. So performance test results need to be associated with the traces and audits to have a trial to analyze the results and defects. So what traces and audit trials have to be collected is planned before in advance and is in the associated part of the test plan. So now lastly, let us see what is entry and exit criteria. So the performance tests require a stable product due to its complexity and accuracy. Okay, so the changes to the product affect performance numbers and may also mean that the tests have to be repeated. Okay, so it will be counterproductive to execute performance test cases before the product is stable. Okay, and when the changes are being made. So hence the performance test executions are normally start after the product meet the set of some criteria. So these set of criteria are to be met are defined well in advance and is documented as a part of your performance test plan. So similarly, a set of exit criteria is also defined to conclude that the result of the performance test. So that comes your entry and exit criteria. Now let us see what are the challenges faced by the performance testing. So performance testing is not very well understood topic in the testing community. So there are several interpretations of the performance testing. So sometimes people are not still aware of performance testing completely. Okay. So the availability of skills is the major problem facing the performance testing. So what are the available skills with you as a tester or a senior analyst is not sufficient. So this performance testing requires large amount of resources such as hardware, software and effort and also your time, and it will require tools, and also to operate that tool you also need the people. So basically performance testing needs the expensive tools, and it also need the expensive resources. So performance test results need to be reflected in the real life environment and expectation. So this is a challenge, because it has to meet your real life environment expectation. So that is why it is a challenge. And selecting the right tool for the performance testing is another challenge, because on the basis of your application you decide on which tool to perform the performance testing. So this is also a challenge to decide which tool to be used in the application. So interfacing with the different teams, that include the set of customers. So you also have to interface the different teams to have the different set of customer perspective. And also lack of seriousness on the performance test by the management and development team. So basically the performance testing is taken as an easier task, but actually it matters a lot. So your any application should have a good performance, then only it can survive in the market. So in the next session we will see what is regression testing. I hope you all understood what is performance testing now. Thank you, students.